Okay, so right off the bat, my first point is that your beginning of the game is actually pretty clean. There's not really much that I would have to say for the first few minutes. Um,
Mhm.
your laning is solid as Nami. Over the course of the few games I've looked at, it looks like you have a generally pretty good idea of, trading, positioning, all that stuff. So I'm just skipping to the first point that has jumped out at me sort of in this game. Um, so I'll just hit play at 7:15. Here, I'll actually turn the sound down. It's kind of loud. So at 7:15, you guys actually have like pretty dominant control of bot lane. Your Mel is up like double CS on Trist. Seraphine's resources are pretty low, and I think it's not even necessarily a bad thing what you're doing. You're basing to go contest grubs, which is generally like a pretty solid play, or like I would say it's a pretty solid option that people have. But I think a lot of people, especially getting into like higher elos, master tier plus, kind of I notice when I play the game, I notice that the other support player is very often at or roaming to grubs um for not the greatest reasons, I think. Like I think in this game I was really surprised that you based here. I like if it were me, I would just be sitting under these guys' tower and just making their game unplayable cuz Seraphine's already low mana and you guys can just throw out abilities. Like I would just be throwing out like bubbles off cooldown at Tristana while she CS's under tower. Um, and eventually, like in a wave or two, Tristana's probably gonna have to base, or maybe is gonna like overstay and greed and die. Um, I'll change it to blue vision actually. And at some point very soon or just recently, you have seen Hecarim topside as well. So
Yeah.
there wasn't any real fear of being ganked or something that was going on here. So I think um basing here was a really big missed opportunity. Like your Mel doesn't get like screwed over because of it or anything, but you also speeding it up for what you get out of it is not really much. Like
Yeah.
it's a little hindsighty to say, oh well, like you didn't get a kill on the enemy top laner or whatever, so this isn't good. But I think just the opportunity cost of what you could have definitely gotten done bot lane, you could have gotten a plate or two, pushed them off, gotten to deny Tristana even more than you did here. Like I think what happened essentially in this sequence is your base just gave the Tristana and Seraphine like a free out of the lane
The
phase.
free
Like
out, yeah.
they push their wave, crash the tower, get to base when they really should not have been able to.
Uh-huh.
And with that said, this stuff topside is not like your fault. It could have gone better. Like your top laner could have been in a better spot, whatever. You could have been more rewarded for this, but um, like you based early in Rome tier and have gotten one grub, but the enemy Seraphine, who is like stuck bad conditions bot lane, is also just like here. Like you don't even really have an advantage at the grubs outside
Yeah.
of getting the first one, and now the enemy team is like already here, so it just feels bad. And I think
Yeah.
yeah, I think what actually plays out in the game kind of exemplifies it pretty well. Why I think it's just really good to stay bot lane in that scenario because you're also not like abandoning your team at grubs because if you stay bot, then Seraphine is staying bot, and if Seraphine isn't like if she recalls and leaves Tristana bot lane, like that's not real. That'll never happen. Either they'll both base and you can base at the same time, or um they'll just be trapped in lane forever at bad conditions, something like that. Either way,
Okay.
you guys have like a really or had a really great thing going on bot lane, and I wouldn't have it
Mhm.
because
No, I
yeah,
definitely see what you're saying.
yeah, because when you based, you only bought an amp tome, right? Because you had already
Yeah.
based once in the game, and I thought maybe like you had some big purchase or something, or like I was a little confused at the time when you based, but um basing for grubs in general, like that's a great option, but I think people get baited into feeling like they have to go do it every
Yeah,
game.
for me, yeah, for me it's like, so I feel like it's not even I get baited, but it's almost just like an autopilot thing that I'll do. Like, oh, it's like it's 7:30 time to base for grubs. Uh,
Yeah. And
you
I
know,
think I think that's it's really good to even recognize that, but I think you're too far on one on the other side where like a bad player would just not even consider going to grubs, and you're too far on the other end right now where you're just autopiloting to grubs every time, where it's like when grubs is coming to be an option, like you start thinking about it. And in this game, I think yeah, you definitely come to the conclusion after you start thinking about it, you're like, nah, I'm just gonna stay in lane and keep like owning these guys because they're getting shit on in lane. So
yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
sweet. So that's a very big point. And then the next thing here coming up is a smaller point, but still a point to be made, I think. At 10:25 ish here, you come to this point where you want to go and get wards, and your Mel walks up and gets engaged on 1v2. And I just think this is the first time that I'm showing it, but it's the second time in the game that it's happened where your Mel is kind of like you and your Mel are just on different pages. So I would say try to make it a little bit more clear to your AD what's going on. And if your AD is like trying to walk up, I guess walk up with them, or at least like try and make it clear what you want to do, like swamping back or swamping that you want to get vision in their jungle or something, because this is a good timer to walk in the jungle. Like you're way more right than Mel is to walk up. You should get vision, but being on the same page with your AD is better than
Doing two
yeah.
than
So
like,
like
yeah.
yeah. So being with Mel so that she doesn't get jumped on and like until she backs up with you would be great here. She doesn't really get super punished by this or anything, but she does have to blow her flash, and it gets a little weird when it
Yeah.
really shouldn't have to be this way at all. And it's more Mel's fault again, but still, it's solo queue, so you can't always expect people to go to play perfectly and whatnot. Um,
No, I get what you're saying though.
yeah,
Like I wanna consider what my teammates are doing also.
yeah,
It's like communication. Like I could have pinged. Like I'm gonna go ward.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So fortunately, it all kind of works out and is chill. One thing I would say, um, I'm sure um, you're already aware of this, but I think in this game I would go 3 points W and then max E, and then I
Yep.
personally you end up going the
I always like when I play. I don't really think about like my skill point order. I always just max WEQ. I don't know like
well
how.
I think it's good. I think bare minimum you put 3 points W, but I very often like 90% of the time put 3 points W and then max E because the once you get out of the early game, like the trading with your W doesn't really happen as much, and you're just like spamming W for sustain. Um, so the power in it is a little less, I think, especially with a mage like Mel having more points in E earlier is really nice. Um,
Okay,
so I would definitely give it a try. I think
I will. Yeah.
in certain game like situations in game, I get like this feeling of like just how the game is playing out, where I think I just straight up max my W because I feel like I need more healing. Like the enemy team is has really annoying poke in my eight. Like I just need more W healing for my AD or whatever it is. Then I'll keep putting points in my W, but I think your default should be 3 points W max and then max E, because it just increases
Yeah.
your damage output overall. and you don't really get punished too much for it. I think I do it like every game.
Okay.
Um,
No, I'll
so
definitely gonna try
yeah,
that.
so there's that, and then the support item you seem to tend to go is
I
the Dream Maker one, and I
I'm not
think that's
sorry.
okay.
Okay.
I hear, yeah, and then you can respond. I think the Dream Maker is okay. I personally have always preferred going the Slay or Celestial
Yeah, yeah,
Opposition
yeah.
if you really need it. But I think the Dream Maker is okay. I'm just not so sure about how you feel about it.
I usually like I buy both. Like I buy Slay in a lot of my other games. I just wanted to
Mm,
say that sometimes I give myself reasoning for like why I should buy one or the other, but I'm not really like sure if like it's like I don't know if like my knowledge is correct, so to speak, right? Like so I'll think like
yeah.
okay, Slay it gives like health and movement speed, right? So if I want to like give a little bit more movement speed to my teammates than I already do, I'll go Slay. And
Hmm.
uh the Dreammaker, what it's more damage and like damage reduction, right?
Yeah,
So
it's the two part effect of it, yeah.
yeah, so if I want to like save my teammates from like I don't know an assassin or something, or if like I want to just do more damage, then I'll go that, right? So that's how I think of it.
Yeah, I just feel I guess
I know.
my opinion, I don't feel super strongly about it to be honest when it comes to Nami. I think both options are fine. I feel a lot more strongly about the skill point order, but I felt
Yeah.
like it
Okay.
was worth bringing up. I think I
Okay.
don't know what it is. I just really think Slay is OP
I think
with the
Slay.
healing that it gives.
I'm pretty sure Slay is higher win rate.
Yeah,
Like
I wouldn't be
I think it's
surprised.
I think it's just I think it is just a better item.
I think
But
for whatever reason, Dreammaker I think is good, especially on other enchanters. For whatever reason, I don't feel the power of it on Nami. As opposed to Slay. I guess like just this how Slay works where you buff up your you buff up your teammate with E, and then if they hit something with E, then it just procs Slay. Feels great. Um,
yeah.
so like just the logic of like you're buffing them up, they get something off, and then they directly get like a move speed boost and a heal off your E, like off of them actively like trading with your E. Just makes
Yeah. Yeah.
sense to me. I think it feels great on Nami. So just
And that also plays more into like the like 3 points W than Maxi.
yeah, like with
Okay.
as Lucian Nami, for example, I've played way too much Lucian Nami in my life. It just feels great, right? Like you buff up your Lucian, he's God. He gets like the Slay proc trade, and then like has the movement speed to get out, type of thing. It just feels great. Just as a quick example, but we'll move on from that. It's not the most important point. Um, so yeah, at 14:30, this fight is happening. I wasn't sure if I thought you must have been alt
I
tabbed or something, honestly,
Yeah, I think
because
I don't know what happened either. Like I was looking over this before like I was just looking over this like before you called me and I was like, what the hell was I doing?
yeah, because this is um
Yeah. I
definitely
don't know.
something where you could have swayed it with being here for sure. Like not to say how good the fight could have been or who would have lived or died or whatever, but even your Mel was here like 10 seconds, 15 seconds before you, which is crazy. But
Yeah, no,
I'm sure you definitely already know that you should have been there. But I would be also crazy of me not to bring it up. But
yeah, yeah.
you definitely don't need me to tell you like definitely could have been there.
No.
Definitely important to have been there. But on to the next point. Um, let's see. I'm gonna so
Sometimes like oh,
yeah.
sorry.
No, you go. You go.
I just wanted to say that like I'm not entirely sure of like what are the best things I could do to improve as a player, right? That's why I wanted to like get coaching from like a higher level player in the first place, right?
Hmm.
But sometimes I feel like maybe like I feel like this is probably like classic for like like masters players of my level. It's like sometimes like I'm unsure of like what I should really be doing in the mid game. Like I feel like that's where I can fall short sometimes. Um, like around this point in the game,
Mm, mm-hmm.
like one problem I know that I have for sure is that sometimes like I'll be going to like try to like place a ward somewhere, and even when I play other roles, I have this problem where like I'll try to go somewhere right, but I'll just like get picked out and die randomly, like just for like random deaths that I have.
Yeah, I know there's one instance where it exemplifies it a little more that we'll go over later in the game. Um, yeah, I think it is a little um there's just this kind of like vagueness of what you're supposed to do as a support in the mid to late game, where it is a little hard to see the direction of what you should be doing. Like even um I think the next point is generally like a positive one that's coming up here soon about what you're doing. But even technically right here is a little bit of a dangerous face check, but you can assume in the state of the game, like I won't rewind, but in the state of the game, you're already kind of assuming that they're doing grubs, like you already know that they are. I'm pretty sure. Um, so in that case, it should be either like it should be pretty obvious if your team is contesting. They're not. Udyr's not like really even trying to move, so um, getting this initial ward, I think, is fine, but definitely don't want to be dropping any more wards, and you didn't, so that's good. Um, but I think once you know that they're on Herald and your team is not really contesting, it's kind of a waste of time to be in the area in general, and I think you could be getting more vision on the bot side for Dragon, or just like setting up like the opposite side of the map if you're definitely not contesting like whatever's going on, and you guys definitely weren't. So getting vision bot side would be good, and it is kind of what you end up doing. um the positive point that I was going to make is that you don't go into like this bot side river or jungle alone without any help. You actually wait until Udyr's free. He gets all his clearing done, and then you walk in with him, which I think is great. Because a lot of people would just um, walk in solo, and walking in first and like so bravely is a little
Yeah, yeah.
like dangerous to me, but there are some decent reasons why you can do this. Like Hecarim is not really a threat, and you kind of just saw the Seraphine interest on a mid, so you're working with decent info that you can walk in first and do this, and it's not the worst. But in like very slightly different scenarios, it could be a very like dangerous face check, and you should be more careful and let Udyr face check and whatever. But the general idea, Udyr was finishing and you guys walking together was solid. And I think getting the one ward is fine because the dragon is spawning so soon that you're not gonna have time to reset again, and you want to have some wards at least in case the enemy team came around and swept all your vision and you were just left with no wards and you can't go back to get wards would be really sad. So you have decent vision in the area with just the one ward, and you have a few left over for when the dragon actually spawns and your teams are like vying for the vision control and all that there. So you guys get really good info from your vision. The only thing I would say is, um, or the next point, I guess, is this is like the first um example of generally I would say your Nami ults could be you could look
Better.
to Nami ult differently because I think the like when you Nami ult like I could usually see why, but I think in a lot of the cases it ends up not being super useful, and I was trying to think of for myself like why the Nami ultis um like just didn't really feel super impactful because Unami ult here and Udyr kind of like walks with it, but it doesn't really amount to anything. Like Swain just walks away. Um, and Nami ult is pretty tough to work with sometimes. Like it's pretty whatever. But I was thinking in this game specifically, what I would be looking for to Nami ult is um if either what I landed on is either if Set is ulting somebody, then I would Nami ult like just towards the Set and hope. Because my thought is if Set is ulting somebody, then it's probably gonna be like something of a fight already, and the Nami ult is probably gonna hit 1 to 2 people, if not like the people are already dead to Set, which is good. Or if the Swain is ulting, then I would Nami ult because if Swain is throwing his ult or like using his ult and you Nami ult, it's either gonna hit at least the Swain or like the rest of his balled up team with him. Because if he ults and he like backs up to avoid your ulti and like backs off and loses Swain ult because of it, then that's amazing, like an amazing trade. So like when Swain is ulting, it's like the enemy team acknowledging like that they're gonna come into you. So that's like a great time for the Nami ult to go off and like nearly guaranteed hit somebody. Obviously, there are some like as a Nami player, there are times other than those two like situations where it just feels right or people are in a like too juicy of a position to not ult. And that's for sure like you should listen to your instincts on that. But in this game, like you were kind of throwing it out as like a trying to start a fight or like trying to pick people or something before a fight pretty often. And I just think with your team comp, like nobody can really do anything with your Nami ult. Like you don't have like this crazy hard engaged team comp. Like your one of your frontliners will just like slowly walk at their team. Like you
You
don't
kind of just all,
have
yeah.
yeah, you don't have any crazy like Malphite ult clear engage or something like that. The Udyr is just kind of walking at people, or Set is kind of walking at people, so the Nami ult doesn't end up being super threatening in that case. If all that makes any sense, I think it makes sense. Um,
No, it definitely makes sense. Yeah.
so another very small thing around this dragon is I think this was just a very awkward situation, and it ended up going okay. Like, for instance, also if you had your ult here, I feel like it could go
It would
crazy.
be,
Like you
yeah.
could even like walk off to the side or like try and be out of their vision somehow, like down this way, and ult, and it would maybe hit their whole team here, or just even you know, if just holding it and having it just in case they decide they want to walk out of this tri bush would be crazy. Um, but yeah, it would be interesting to have here. I just think your team's positioning is so odd here. When you guys see their whole team in Tribush, I would definitely tend towards being like way further to the left. Like because your Udyr is aggroing dragon, he's always gonna be over here unless you guys are just gonna drop the dragon for some reason. So I think in some situations, like if your whole team is kiting down, I think your positioning in particular like makes a lot more sense. But the way that you're positioning right now, if the enemy team decided to go in and really like Hecarim just started to run in and Seraphine ulted and all that stuff, then you would be like really cut off from your team. Like you would be forced to run down and your whole team would be forced to run up, and then you would just be out of the fight unless you like flash into the pit or something, which would be crazy.
Yeah.
So I think here you're like low key cutting yourself off, and if the other team was better, they could definitely punish that by either going after you, which would be they don't really have the champs to go after you, to be honest. So I'm not worried about that as much, but they could definitely start a fight, and then you're just like out of luck, and you would have to walk all the way around the pit to be useful. Um, So I would definitely be positioning more like in the dragon pit or like further to the left because there would be no fear of them like flanking you because you could easily get vision there or you could get better vision over this wall as you're positioning to the left to see like where the enemy team is actually coming. But you guys had all the vision you needed on their entire team there initially. So luckily, nothing really ends up happening like too crazy. I'm pretty sure everybody just walks away. You guys get the dragon, so it's okay. But I think that definitely could have been a much more dangerous situation. Um, so moving on to the next point is quite a bit. It's quite a bit in the future. Skip to it. Uh, Around here. Um, I thought it was okay. Okay, so this is more what you were talking about before, where it might be a little disorienting because I skipped ahead like 5 minutes. But with this game state, the Hecarim just respawned and the Mundo's dead. You see two people mid, and you just maybe saw Swain flash on vision. Maybe that's a spectator thing, but maybe he was oh no, he was clearing awards. So you do see Swain flashing on vision. So in this state, you have like tabs on everybody basically, and you see where your team is, and you end up basically doing what you were talking about, where you face check into their jungle and end up dying. So
Yeah.
in this situation, like I try and watch the replays from your team's vision, so I'm not like I think it's weird to watch the replay with God vision and then be like, oh, well, you should obviously have thought this because this person's here, but you're not working with perfect vision. But
Yeah.
even now, or even watching it from blue side vision, I thought it was crazy that you had walked in here.
Yeah.
Even even at this
Even
point,
going for
I would
boards.
even
Yeah.
in this line bush, I would be a little bit more like I would be throwing my bubble in first and like walking in through the safest point of this bush because I think you can walk into this bush because you had good vision of these guys here and Hecarim's only respawning, but I would be walking in a safer manner to this area and getting really shallow vision. Like I would place a mid lane ward because mid lane ward is just too OP. So I'd get a ward, around here. And then I would get, honestly, I wouldn't even really walk too much further in. I would just get a ward in the line bush and then a ward over on the ramp just to see the entrance. Because um, the reason for that is, if anything, I would maybe sometimes consider getting a ward here in this bush, but even this bush I think is crazy. Like they very well could have had
Yeah. No, no, I
um
definitely agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
three people in this bush. Um
Yeah. Looking back,
even
it's
Swain potentially could have been here, could have been four. But going for this Raptors bush is insane for sure.
yeah.
Um but I would have but you don't even need to it's all that stuff is not even really very worth considering because you can drop all three of your wards relatively shallow because your team doesn't need any different vision. Like the best vision you could get is just this river
Between lanes.
area, like this shallow
Yeah.
entrance area because um even if you get this deep vision, it's realistically just going to get cleared anyways. And you're just trying to drop some vision and then base and then come back out onto the map with your Mel on her reset. And then I'm not sure what your Udyr is about to do because it's solo queue, but you guys come back out onto the map. You'll have if it's not cleared, you would have had vision on this entrance, the line bush, and here in mid lane. So you would have great vision plus a full stack of wards and ideally two pinks to come back with to really take control over the top side and Baron vision with with Udyr and Mel, and then Obviously it's solo queue, so it's hard to say what everybody's gonna do. Your Riven doesn't have TP, so there's like a whole other set of problems with what you would do after that. But just getting this preliminary entry vision is great because that's what you need to see for your next play. Because you'll reset, come back out onto the map, and you want vision of just this area so that you can then, like, ideally you come out, get priority on the next mid wave that you can. It won't be this wave because Mel is recalling on it, but you'll be at this point you could be recalling with
Yep.
what I would do. And so you would be recalling with Mel. You and Mel would come back out onto the map on the next wave. So kind of just ignoring what's actually happening. So this wave, you and Mel would be on it. Udyr would be around. Um, it might be not the cleanest thing. Like Udyr might be clearing camps and you would have to wait for him or whatever because it's solo queue, or you could spam ping him. Whatever the case may be, you guys would be in a really solid spot because you'd have all vision in this like shallow section of the map that's really important. And then you guys can play for your wave mid, probably get priority on it because you guys are very strong. And then you can all walk in as three. It allows Set to continue pushing. If Set's good, like he'll already have his wave pushing in this scenario, and then you guys can be as four around Baron. Then you get the wards that you were going for. You get vision here, potentially here. Like depending on the context of what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, Place a pink on Baron, and things are like going really great, right? So um, that would be like the way I would play out this section, and it would be a lot cleaner. But yeah, that face check is like, not only is it like kind of crazy, like just based on what you see on the map, but it's just not even really necessary to go for. Like it's just skipping like an entire whole um like turn on the map as a team, because you guys wouldn't even really utilize this vision even if you got it, and it would probably be swept because it would be vision that you can't really defend in the first place anyways.
Mhm.
So that is how I played that. And that's kind of just the general idea of that problem that you say you have of just like face checking and dying. Um, is can be remedied by really paying attention to mid waves and not just face checking like just just because you feel like it, or you feel like you need
Yeah.
wards so you just kind of walk in. It's always based on where your team is, like later on into the game. If you're not very certain of where exactly everybody on the enemy team is, like walking in, especially as an enchanter, is really crazy. So you need like your jungler to come with you. You need to see people, because you clear mid wave, like say you and Mel get like clear mid wave and have priority on it, then somebody on the enemy team, the reason why that's important is somebody on the enemy team has to catch it. So that's somebody by default, they're usually their AD carry. That is not going to be bush camping for you. So you clear the mid wave with Mel. You and Udyr and Mel like can kind of gingerly walk in because Tristana will be like in this area clearing the wave, and even if the enemy team is bush camping, you'll have like at worst, a note like even numbers in this little area, and then you can get out like 3v4 or whatever if Tristana, you know, will eventually join. But clearing mid wave, seeing somebody on mid wave is really important, and very often the enemy support will be showing on mid wave with the enemy AD carry, and if they're not, that's like a little um that's just something to take into consideration when you're face checking for vision. Like enemy support's not showing on mid wave, kind of sus. They could be like trapping somewhere with their jungler. Um, that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's very important to be with your like know that you're gonna have like numbers advantage at the time or very soon after you face check. Like even if you might be punished, like your team will run them down or whatever and kill them if they go for you, kind of thing. Or yeah, it's just very important to go based on like turns from midwave, um
Hmm. Okay.
and playing with your team and all that and tracking them. So there's that. The next point that I have, you die at some point pretty soon, but it was not really very important, I didn't think. Um, at this at this point, I think generally speaking, I don't go over games too much past like 20-25 minutes because games like just devolve more and more like
This game
Fiesta
was,
y and in solo
yeah,
queue, but there are some points to go over, so I'll keep going. This nothing here is too crazy. I think you played the team fight fine so far. I just think after Hecarim ultis here, you kind of just like literally walk into his melee and then you eventually die because of it. I think I think if you respect him more and just walk around and group up with your team, you would end up being fine. So your
yeah,
team ends up winning the fight anyways, so not the hugest deal, but you definitely don't need to die here, I don't think. Um and then the next point is the next my next point is when you guys started Baron. When you guys started Baron, it's a little it's easy to say, right? Because you guys eventually like it eventually gets stolen. So it's really easy for me to sit here and say like, "Oh, obviously you shouldn't have started Baron." But I think even without knowing what was going to happen, when you guys started it, I was like kind of cringing to myself like I hate when people do this in solo queue, and it's not even your call in the game. But if I was in your position in the game, I would be swamping for my teammate to get off of Baron. I
okay,
think it's so stupid because I think you guys are in a pretty reasonably controlling state of the game. Like you guys aren't miles ahead or anything, but you guys are definitely ahead. Um, and don't I would say definitely don't need to um be like do something so drastic as to just start Baron and see what happens. Like you're not getting like imminently outscaled or something. You don't need to do anything crazy. So I think opportunistically Udyr hitting Baron is like okay as like a sneak thing, but the second the enemy team knows that you guys are on Baron, I would much rather peel off and try and fight them rather than this weird Baron play. But that's hard to like convey in solo queue. So I would just be spamming off of it because at the end of the day, the enemy team is very likely going to know that you guys are on it, and it's hard for your team to just flat out stop Hecarim from getting in the pit if they are aware of what's going on. So at best, unless the enemy team is crazy, it'll be like a 50-50. And you guys from the controlling position in the game don't want a 50-50 because you can do better than that, I think. So that's the logic for why I really like when it started. I just had like a subconscious like I was like,
it's
why are these
yeah,
guys doing this when I first saw it, and then obviously Hecarim Olsen steals it. Partially, unlucky, but basically exactly what I was saying. Like, there's just nothing really you guys can do about it. If you get the Baron so low, and you guys definitely should be looking for a fight and then just taking Baron off with a fight rather than just flipping Baron for no reason. So I think while that's not your call in the game, you're definitely not the one forcing it. You can definitely be like a voice of reason, and in in the aggregate of a bunch of solo queue games, if you stop like your team from throwing at Baron 1 out of 5 times, and it helps 1 out of 5 games, then that's better than not, you know, than never doing it.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
you can't
it's
control your
way
team
better.
all the time, but letting like spam ping 5 times like back ping on Baron can be pretty convincing sometimes. Um, and will get people to do what you think.
It's just
Um,
li- like with objective calling, like maybe I feel like maybe I mean it's hard to remember at this point, but I feel like maybe I intuitively I kind of knew like maybe it wasn't the best start on
yeah,
this good start, but sometimes I feel like I can have an issue where like sometimes I'll be like obsessed with like going for grubs or going for dragon and I'll be picking, right? So like I have this obsession with like trying to contest objectives or start objectives, right? But it'll be bad. But like I kind of already know that, or like I know that I'm trying to work on it. So I'm trying to like I'm trying to like if like my jungler like starts an objective, I'm just like, all right, bro, sure, because I
yeah.
feel like
It's very
like
it,
he's
it
not
is
going
really
to be much better
easy
than
to be
me.
trusting of your jungler in solo queue if like they start a dragon that you're not, like a random early dragon that you're not so sure about, and then it turns into like a horrible play and multiple people die and enemy team gets dragon. It can be really easy to like trust your jungler on objectives like that, or even Baron like this, but it is better to at the very least like consider for yourself how you feel about it, at least, because there's always the idea that like if your jungler was really insistent on doing the Baron, even if you spam backping, then you're gonna just end up taking part in it anyways. Like I could have been in your shoes, and in this game at that point spam pinged the Baron, but my team was just very insistent about it, so I would stay on Baron because like you're just gonna follow the team call. But I think it's super important to, if you think about it for yourself and your team has one level-headed person who knows what's going on enough to not start the Baron, then that's better than zero. Maybe your whole team will listen to you, in certain situations like that. So you're not always going to get it perfect, when it comes to objectives, but it's definitely something to think about, right?
Yeah, just yeah, I gotta think more about it for myself rather than like being blindly trusting of solo
Yeah,
queues
because
in game.
that's something that I generally have had a problem with in my solo queue career, is I'm always like willing to go for a play or be trusting of my teammates if they think something is good. But that's just from my POV, it's just a really bad habit to be overly trusting of people in solo queue, because people in solo
Yeah,
queue do not know what's going on
yeah,
more often than not. So always got to be trusting of your own instincts. And I've saved so many of my own games by spamming people off of Baron. Like I can't even express enough how like people will just start Baron for literally no reason. Even in competitive, it's crazy bad.
yeah. In competitive, I know like it's definitely like an NA meme. Like back in the, I mean, I don't
Yeah,
watch, I don't
people
watch.
like get lost on what
Yeah,
to do, or feel like they should be like, it's this feeling of like you're kind of ahead and you feel like you should be doing something, and people don't know what to do, so they're like, I guess we just start Baron here. But it's like that's if that's the logic that gets you to start Baron, then you should never start it because it's just so wrong. um that's just how I feel about it. but
yeah. Okay, sick.
but moving on, I do think, I think your build is fine. Obviously, mandate first on Nami. Everybody knows that. I think Moonstone second, totally fine. I think going into your second and third item is like where you make decisions.
Yeah,
Um, Obviously, mandate is like a must. So in this game, I think you could go Mikhail's. I probably wouldn't, because I don't think there's a real target to Mikhail's, and I think Mel should be able to handle herself with her W. So I don't think Mikhail's is necessary, but that's the first item I would think about. Like Mikhail's just so OP. I always like consider whether I should go that
Hmm.
before anything else. So don't need Mikhail's, and then I would think about like basically either Moonstone or Redemption. So you want Moonstone second, I think that's fine, and then I would go Redemption third in this game because I think
What are your thoughts on
the because
Shirelia's?
yeah, I saw your build and I think Shirelia's is fine, and I think there are situations where Shirelia's is great. Like you can go it like even I've gone Shirelia's first sometimes, even on Nami. I remember where I just really feel like my team is needing the move speed like to engage or whatever. Like if I think my team is really low on engage and I feel like my team needs to engage for whatever reason, then I'll go Shirelia's. Or if I feel like my team could really use the move speed for, to kite out or something. I think Shirelia's is okay in this game, but I also think that the move speed is not really impactful in a fight. Like I think um the fights are just going to be too long and drawn out for the move speed to really matter,
Right.
generally speaking. And I think because the fights are going to be like fairly drawn out, I think that also makes Redemption even better because there will be times where like this enemy team is going to fight like in a ball against you guys, and you guys have pretty tanky members that are going to last a while too. So if you get the right Redemption down, it'll be extremely valuable like healing to your team in like a grouped up team fight, and even potentially damage on somebody, who knows. um, that that could help like execute the Hecarim or something in the ball of people. So I think Redemption is really really strong in this game actually. Um,
Okay.
and I like Redemption is just such an OP item in general, but in this game I thought it was really good, and it was I was sad to see you not go it, but I also think I'm not like surprised because I don't think people think about stuff like that too much, and I think your
To
build
be
is like
honest,
fine.
yeah, to be honest with you, like I 100% see what you're saying, right? It's just or like I'll definitely look at redemption more. It's just that like I I almost never build redemption. I don't know why. Like
Yeah,
like I'm gonna be honest with you, I almost never build that item. Maybe it's because like I haven't been playing support for that long. Like
yeah,
I role swapped it like a little bit ago from AD because like I wanted to stop playing AD.
yeah.
So
No,
maybe
don't
it's just
blame
the
me
reason.
there. Yeah, I think I like I understand that like for whatever reason people have their like biases for items, or redemption is this active that you kind of have to think about more than the other actives, and
Yeah.
it's not the sexiest item to buy like personally as a support. Like you don't get much power out of it, but it is a nonetheless really impactful, and I think this game is like the
Perfect
game
because
where I would
the fight is drawn
consider
out.
redemption because the fights are so long, people aren't dying. Like your set's gonna get a big W off to buy himself time, and he's gonna be low, and that's when the redemption heal is most impactful. Um, just for an example of one champion.
I'm
So
glad that you brought that up.
yeah, I think that could be, or that would have been a really big purchase for you. Not that it would have necessarily changed anything in this game in particular, but
It's
something
something to think about.
very important to
Yeah.
think about for sure.
And you mentioned that Shirellia is like the move speed that it gives like it's better when fights are like shorter or like burstier.
Yeah, if you're like, exactly, if um that's exactly, or that's at least what I'm thinking about when I'm deciding the items, because I love Shurelya's. I've always thought Shurelya's is a great item on enchanters. Uh, um but it's like kind of niche sometimes, and you have to buy it with purpose rather than just like going, oh well, I like Shurelya's every game, so I'll just buy it every game. It's not an every game item, so
Yeah. Okay.
um it's very situational. It can be extremely strong situationally. I don't really have too much to say about this. Like your team goes for an end, not really much you could do in particular. I could see why you guys go for the end. Unlucky. Um, sometimes they just don't work out. I thought it was fine to go for though, personally. Um, so the last point that I would say as we finish up this replay, the last point is you guys are mid grouped up. This is like right before the game-ending team fight. Um, you guys are basically just like everybody's A-ramming mid, and that's pretty normal in this situation.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember exactly what happens here.
yeah. So you go off to the side, and
Yeah.
like you're wanting, it's like kind of that thing where you go like in laning phase where you'll go off to get a ward, but your AD carry like gets traded on 1v2. Like your idea might not be wrong of like you're wanting to go get vision when well, to be fair, I think your idea, it's not the right timing to go get vision, like,
Yeah.
because the wave is coming and your team is like, fighting, vying for positioning mid, needing to clear the wave. So I think this is like, if anything, a real like the bad timing to go get your vision if you're gonna go get it. But the vision is not itself like really that important. Like you see everybody, like everybody's just showing mid. There's nobody's even trying to flank on the enemy team outside of like Hecarim's coming from the right, but you already knew he's on the like below mid somewhere. So this isn't all this positioning from the enemy team isn't a surprise. And if anything, getting vision like down here for a Hecarim flank would be good. Um, but staying with your team is way, 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 way more important than getting like any vision up here, right? Because
Hmm.
at this stage of the game, nothing really matters if somebody gets like snap engaged on and dies, because then you'll just lose. And that's what happened. Mel gets feared. All of a sudden, is in the middle of 10 people, and the game is just lost. Like the game's over
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah.
getting any kind of preemptive vision is like meaningless. Like, is it your fault that Mel gets Hecarim ulted and dies? No, but
Could have been better stop.
are you like in anywhere able to help her? No. So it's like both of you are could be doing better. Like her positioning is pretty crazy considering that she doesn't have flash and your team is a little spread out, but um it could be the case that that if you're showing here, then it looks like a more difficult engage for the enemy team. Like Udyr's kind of weirdly positioned too. I'm not really sure what he's up to either. But if you guys are more like balled up and your front line is doing a better job of staying in front of Mel, then it would be harder for Hecarim to see that it's a good engage. Like it still would be a good engage because Mel has no flash and he's getting on top of her. But just um the control that you have over Hecarim's like mind of like everybody being stacked up in front, he might not go for it, like if he sees the whole team is grouped.
Yeah.
So he sees what he sees. That Mel is kind of like he has numbers in the area, and Mel is kind of a little too far forward, and the game just ends because of it. So really, really, really important to prioritize like positioning with your team in late game scenarios because the game's just over. Like you don't even nobody even gets a chance to play because Mel's just dead. Game over. It's just GG. So whether, like I said, it's not like entirely your fault, but who knows? Maybe you could have done something to save her had you been in a better position, or um, it might have you and Udyr's positioning might have just been like a good deterrent, and they wouldn't have gone for the engage in the first place, type of thing. So
Hmm.
stuff like that extremely important to consider because yeah, we don't even really get the chance to like flame Mel for her positioning because you guys were off to the side so much that it's really hard to say if her positioning was all that bad. Because you guys just weren't there, and whether or not you could have peeled for her to begin with is hard to say a little bit. Um, and I guess we'll never know because of the way it played out. But yeah, it's it's rough with the minute death timers. The game just ends like that. So yeah, um,
Mhm.
that's pretty much all I have. If you have any questions.
Uh, just a couple. Uh, First about like my word placement in general. Like you went on like talking about like we went over talking about like like not face checking, right? But
Hmm.
I was wondering about about where I'm actually placing the words or how I'm going about it. Like, what do you think? Because like I'm trying to like usually I try to cover the
Mm,
choke points. You said mid word is OP. Like
yeah,
sometimes I place mid word if I think it'll be good.
I think it's
But yeah,
always good. I think midword by default is a word I will always place
okay,
if I'm able to place it. It is
okay,
such like the most important word. It's just so OP. And I think if there's no if there's no particular direction in the game, or it's hard to tell what the next objective is that is going to be played for, I'll just like get a mid ward. Either, if their tower's still up, I'll get it here, but if their tower's down, I'll get it a little further up if I can. I'll get a mid ward, and then I'll get a ward to the side of mid. Like, a lot of times I'll literally just ward the two line bushes and then a mid ward in base, and then after I come out of base, it'll be a little bit more clear to me like what side of the map my team wants to play on, and then I'll get vision on that side of the map.
hmm
um but most of the time it's very clear what side of the map you should be playing on. Like,
yeah,
for example,
like dragon is
at
fun.
this state
Yeah,
of the game, dragon's the soonest thing to spawn, or Otacon's bot side, even better. You'd want to be getting vision control of bot side. The jungle entrances are um, super important. Um, yeah,
yeah, that's
it's
why.
all hard to
Yeah,
say, very contextual based on the situation, right?
okay. And one more thing, yeah, I think just like one more thing. I wanted to ask like you personally your opinion on like void grubs, right? Because like it kind of goes back to like how like I'm like autopilot roaming the void grubs, right? But like how
Yeah.
like I'm not sure like how high I should actually be valuing them, right? Like because
Um,
like I
I
feel like
value grubs reasonably. I think
I feel like they're pretty good, but like I don't know like how good specifically. Like
they're decent. I would say in the early game, if my team trades dragon for grubs or grubs for dragon, I would say the early dragon and grubs are fairly equivalent. So if you get one or the other, it's great. If you get both, even better. Um, if
mhm.
you don't get either, then unfortunate, but not the end of the world.
Not the end of the world. Okay.
Sometimes it just happens. If you're the deeper level of thinking about it is if you have like a particularly split push like style of top laner or even mid laner, then you would
Champion
prioritize,
siege.
yeah, grubs a
Yeah.
little bit more. But that's stuff that I honestly don't care to consider much in my games. Like, I find grubs to be pretty good, but not the end of the world. And that's kind
Mhm.
of like the end of my thinking on it, because even if I have a good split pusher or not, like, that doesn't really matter much. Like, if grubs are able to be taken, then you should take them. Like,
Okay.
like, it doesn't really matter if your team is good with grubs or not. Every team wants grubs, so there's not much reason to think too deeply about it, in my opinion.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
if
it's
it like
just
if
so
it's a good scenario, then you go for it. But I think from the support's perspective, I personally don't like. I never want to give up my own lane to go run to grubs.
okay. Okay.
If I see like if I know that my AD is going to be okay solo, then I might open up onto the map like towards grubs first, and then I'll see what the enemy support is doing. If it's clear that my presence is kind of like, if grubs are already kind of guaranteed and my presence is, been used topside, then I'll go back bot as soon as I can, because
Okay.
um it's usually pretty obvious if the enemy team is like contesting grubs or not. So if they're actively contesting it, then I'll stick around, obviously. But I generally like my mindset is matching the enemy support. So if they're making an effort to go to grubs, then I'll match that unless I can unless I'm in a situation where I know I can punish the enemy AD 2v1. Like if I'm a Leona Nautilus type champ and we're and I'm post 6 or Alistar or whatever, then I'll go just dive the enemy AD oftentimes if the other support is prioing grubs. Um but generally I'll match for grubs that what the enemy support is doing, or if I see like an opening where I have time to leave lane, like we get a good wave crash and I reset and I know my AD is going to be okay. Um, like I said, I'll open up the map like towards grubs, get some pressure mid, get vision around grubs, whatever it is that I need to do at the time, um, for my team to get grubs, and then I'll leave. Like I'll want to go bot lane as soon as I can. Is essentially how
Hmm.
I do it. Like in the game that we're looking at, where you enter grubs, I would have every time just stayed bot lane and just
Okay.
kept, because it's not like it's not your job to be at grubs necessarily, but it's your job to at the very least be ready to get something for what the enemy support is doing. Like if the enemy support gives up what their lane and goes to grubs, then you need to be ready for that on your end by either being at the grubs yourself or like matching what they're gonna do, like what we said, where if they based, like because they're getting owned too hard bot side, then I would have based and matched them at grubs. But if they're not basing and you're just matching them bot lane and like shitting on them bot lane, then I see no reason at all to leave because you're not you're not like doing your jungler a disservice by not being there. If your top side 3v3 can't do grubs, then nobody that's like a sane person would ever blame that on the support for not moving. Because if the enemy support is in lane and you're in lane, then how could it possibly be the support's fault that you don't get grubs? Like
Hmm.
um that's how I see it, and I definitely think you guys could have gotten an extra advantage this game
Yeah.
had you
Okay.
prioritized that over grubs. So
Yeah. No, I
that's sort
definitely.
of
Yeah, I see that.
so. Um,
Yeah.
unless you have anything else, that's about it for me. This session went pretty long, but there was
Yeah,
a
it did.
there was a lot of sort of extra stuff. Like most players, I go over the early game a lot more and the later game a lot less. But in a higher elo game, um, it can kind of be the inverse of that, where I don't really need to give you like tips and tricks on laning or anything. Um, but there are like other like bigger macro things to look at later on into the game. So
Right.
there were some things to look at, but yeah, that's
No,
uh that's all I've got.
I appreciate you going over this like for so long.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. That's been very good. I feel like I definitely I definitely learned some pretty key points. I wrote a bunch down. Uh, yeah, definitely some like stuff that like I'm gonna be applying differently from now on, or like you know. But yeah, I think this was a very good session. I think I learned a lot. So
All right,
thanks.
sweet. Well, thank you for contacting me and
Yeah, I'm definitely
ordering
gonna
some
think.
coaching.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna think about booking more like later in the future.
Sweet.
So yeah, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna play games now and maybe I'll, yeah, maybe I'll do it more often. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.